Seems a little silly, wandering off into the darkness, standing there for hours in the wind while the camera clicks, oftentimes just to get tricked by a bank of clouds or a patch of fog. Endless nights filled with sleep deprivation. So again, it seems a little silly. Why do we do it? Because the payoff is incredible. Hello everyone, I am heading up to Oregon once again, and the goal in mind this trip is to focus on Milky Way. We've got some pretty clear skies, so I think it's going to be a good trip, and I'm actually meeting up with Gavin, aka Fototripper, and if you've seen his videos on YouTube, he's a really hilarious guy and also a talented photographer, so we'll see what kind of things we can get into and what we can create. So we're going to meet up tomorrow, and I think our first location is going to be one of my favorite places, Crater Lake. So I'm really excited about that. I haven't shot the Milky Way at Crater Lake in probably at least 3 or 4 years. I think that was the last time I was there, but just brilliant night skies, and the predictions look good, so I think we're going to have some good stuff in store. Well, as usual, I could not help myself. There are clouds, there's a mountain, there's light changing. I gotta time lapse it. So I'm using a circular polarizer to cut out some of the haze. It's a little bit hazy today. Just to show you a quick example of what that polarizer does, check this out. So you can see here, pretty hazy frame. We start twisting that polarization, and bam, those clouds really start shining. All that snow gets reflected on the mountain. Not sure what kind of composition I want to go to. I can include some of the trees in there. I'm thinking just a tight shot would work really nicely for this. I'm just going to do simple settings here. I'm not going to try and do long exposures or anything. I'm just going to do ISO 100, f5.6, 1/200th of a second. Make sure autofocus is off. Sometimes I've done that before where I've forgotten that it's on and it really messes up the shot. The clouds are moving pretty slowly, and I want to see that light change. I want to see the clouds move. I want to see the lighting change. So I think 2 seconds will be a good interval for this time lapse. Should be good. I'm excited. All right, so the time lapse is done. I think it turned out pretty nice. Got a little bit of cloud action, a little bit of shadow movement. I need to start making my way up north now towards Oregon. And then tomorrow, start shooting, catch some Milky Way. Check out this camera transition. And now watch. Now we're in a different place. Pretty cool, right? And then when I do the editing, it's gonna go from dark, and then I'm gonna go like oh man. All right, so I'm here with Gavin, and we are now at Crater Lake National Park. We've been scouting around for a little bit, just looking for different compositions, because you can really circle around the entire lake and find different unique compositions, wildflowers, rocks, and of course the island that's on here, Wizard Island, which is one of the most unique formations that people like to focus on at this park. We found the perfect place right here with some really awesome cliffs that jet out, and we can position ourselves on some of these cliffs to get a really nice composition with the Milky Way.
Reflexion.
So the Milky Way is out in all its glory. Looks just incredible. Check this out. This is a video shot of the Milky Way at a really high ISO. Just awesome. Really cool to see it this vivid with the naked eye. We found a really nice spot to do a Milky Way panorama. So that's gonna be the goal right now. I'm gonna try and do probably 2 different rows of images and blend them all together to get a final about 180 degree perspective field of view. What are you doing, Gavin?
I'm trying to get focus and I'm shitting the bed still because it is useless. Right at this moment, I'm missing my Zeiss Batiste 18mm. That lens was designed for this. It's brilliant. I mean, this is a great lens, a 16 to 35 G Master, but it takes a bit longer to get that focus as sharp as you want it.
Now, what are you doing to focus?
What I'm doing is I'm just magnifying in and getting that that star, that brightest star in the center of my frame. And I always push no matter where my shot is or where my composition is, when I do this focus, I always make sure that it is in the center of the lens, because I believe that that will give you a far sharper focus than if you'd try and focus off to one of the top or bottom edges.
For sure, yeah, that's a good tip.
I'm full of those.
All right, so here's that first panorama. Now, I actually took 30 exposures for this panorama's field of view, and I actually did 3 rows instead of 2 because I needed a little bit more room for the sky than I initially anticipated. I'm using the Nikon D850 with the 14 to 24 lens for this one. I really like how the shot came out. I love the symmetry and how the island sits right in the middle of that awesome Milky Way bow. So this panorama was quite annoying to stitch. Lightroom wasn't working and Photoshop wasn't stitching it correctly, so I actually ended up using a program called PT GUI. That's PTGUI, and that's always my go-to program when Adobe just isn't quite cutting it. So for this image, I did a little bit of color work, some dodging and burning. I also vignetted the photo to bring your eye into the Milky Way and into the area around the lake.
Is that the S?
No! The mic fell off the camera. Oh my god, that's when you know you're tired. I'm kind of redoing a composition I did a few years back of this really beautiful, iconic tree. There was a few people lined up here when we first got here after sunset, and since it's gotten a lot later, most people have kind of left, so not bad. We've got the place to ourselves, and the Milky Way just looks amazing right now. So here's that image of the tree, again taken with the Nikon D850 and the 14 to 24 lens. I've shot this composition a few times, but what I wanted to fix in my last shot is the tension between the tree and the edge of the crater. In my previous image, I had the edge of that bottom branch touching the horizon, and so for this one I got a little bit lower so that I could get a nice gap between the sky and that edge. I love how the tree and the Milky Way kind of mimic each other as almost like a mirror image. So for this photograph, I actually stacked the foreground. So I did a very short time lapse and I shot 9 frames for the foreground and then I just used a single exposure for the sky. Funny enough, there was a car passing by, and the car headlights actually lit up the tree and kind of light painted the tree a little bit. And usually I wouldn't like that. I would trash that frame, but I actually really liked the lighting, so I decided to incorporate a little bit of this frame into the photograph. I changed the opacity so that it was very subtle and blended in with the ambient light from the rest of the photographs. So Gavin and I actually decided to make a full-on Milky Way course, so we're going to include tons of shooting and editing, and you'll be able to learn techniques for stacking, dodging and burning, coloring the Milky Way, and we're both really excited about it. So if you want to learn more about the release date and what's going to be included in that tutorial, please sign up for my newsletter. The link will be in the description, and you will be the first to know when this tutorial is released. All right, I think I'm delirious. I think Gavin may actually be more delirious than I am at this point. So I think after a pretty decent night of shooting, stargazing, we are going to
The pub.
head to the pub.
Don't
Okay.
arrest me, officer. You know, I wasn't even driving. Is it rolling?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I'm Michael Shainblum, and like and subscribe if you would. Make sure that you hit that little bell so that I can wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And we'll see you tomorrow. Oh, God.